Texas Democratic Congresswoman Representative Sheila Jackson Lee with us right now. You are calling, Congresswoman, and very good to have you, but you are calling for something called the 25th Amendment, more to the point, right? Could you explain that?
Well, not exactly, but for the American people, first of all, Neil, happy 4th of July. What a wonderful celebration for the American people, which is the birth of our freedom and the emphasis on our democracy and our ideals. I am recognizing, or have recognized, that a series of incidences have really created an non-sustainable atmosphere here in Washington and in America to get the job done for the American people, to pass health care, to deal with issues of war and peace.
But are you basing that on a series of tweets, Congresswoman?
I'm basing that on a series of actions. So let me just explain. The 25th Amendment is utilized when a president is perceived to be incompetent or unable to do his or her job. We were discussing that yesterday in a constitutional hearing, and the statute requires or has a body to be created, which has not been created yet. But let me just say, as I was walking here to speak to you in Statutory Hall, I looked at some of the words on the walls. Samuel Adams said, "Freedom of thought makes a happy country." Franklin Delano Roosevelt said that hatred and oppression and injustice is an attack on our civilization. Our president has refused to acknowledge the interference of Russia in our election. We had, as an NSA director, someone who had been advised or who had been someone who had tried to diminish the sanctions that were rendered against Russia because of the Russian election intrusion, and the acting Deputy Attorney General told the White House, and that individual was not fired for a period of time.
Well, they're still investigating all of that. It seems like you've come to the conclusion that he's guilty as sin and should go.
No,
but
no,
the 25th Amendment, I just want to be clear, is targeted on if the chief executive is deemed to be incapacitated or mentally or physically challenged to the point he can't do the job.
I did not offer to use that. I think that will be the question of the American people and members of Congress, because it is either the Vice President or members of Congress that will raise that issue.
But the tweet is what got you going on it, right? I mean, and the reason I mention it, Congresswoman, is that LBJ was pretty coarse in his language and his approach to those who didn't agree with him. And you can just imagine what that would have been like if he had Twitter. So I'm wondering where you pick and choose your presidents.
No, Neil, completely apples and oranges.
How is it?
Completely apples and oranges. This president, as I said, has refused to acknowledge the Russian collusion and the idea of the Russian involvement of the election. Yes, this is being investigated. This individual has fired the director of the FBI and indicated that he did so.
But you were talking about the tweets first,
indicated
right? The tweets are where got your goat
and indicated that he did so because he wanted to stop the Russian investigation. Over the series of his career here as president, his tenure, he has done a number of things.
All right, so we don't have a lot of time, but I just want to be clear. It's not based on just one thing, but a pylon of these things. The tweets yesterday just sort of iced it for you.
He is incompatible with the office and the leadership of this country. And yes, the idea that his continuous assault on women only compounds the fact that I would ask him, it's a job that he does not seemingly like, he needs to resign. And I stand by that because he is inappropriate for the office. You can't even get answers from his cabinet officers about housing, about State Department issues, because they're not staffed. They're not staffed because the White House can't seem to agree on appointments. You have to be able to run this country on behalf of the American people. As Samuel Adams said, freedom of thought makes a happy country.
But it seems like you're not even going to give him a chance because of the coarse language you use.
The media has the right to freedom of thought.
I think, Congressman, I've said on this air and elsewhere, I think his tweets, when he gets a particularly off subject and gets personal and punches down, I think they're bad news. They get him off his agenda.
Well, he's ill-suited, Neil, if you think that. He constantly renders the tweets.
But, Congresswoman, that doesn't mean that I say, all right, you're out as president. Let the American people decide that in the next election.
The American people have decided. His polling numbers are down under 40%. He's 36% or 35%.
I can remember when Ronald Reagan polled in the 30s, Congressman. I can remember.
Ronald Reagan was a commander-in-chief, and he was attempting to run the government.
My point is, if you go by polling numbers or snapshots at times, of course, we would have never seen Ronald Reagan reelected.
I am going by his behavior and the fact of whether he is suited for the presidency.
You don't like him, right, Congressman? You don't like him. and you're absolutely free not to like it.
I don't stand for myself. I stand for individuals who have been offended every day by his actions.
Based on things that you don't like, based on a direction he's taking this country that you don't like. And by the way,
absolutely
that is perfectly
not. I was looking forward to working with the President of the United States.
No,
but I can't
you
work
said
with
you're
him.
not
We
going
cannot
to vote.
sustain his behavior. In the middle of trying to call it Immigration Day yesterday, Republicans had to address the question
I understand that, Congressman. On that, you and I agree. But now you've added by saying you're not going to vote on anything until he's out of there. Did I understand that correctly?
Well, I am very, very concerned about his leadership of anything that we propose in the United States Congress, including the mean health care bill that he called mean. So
you're not going to vote on anything? You're not going to do your job because you don't think he's doing his?
Oh, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to vote no if I don't believe that this is an appropriate governmental
so you'll still
posture
vote,
for
but you'll
us to
still
take.
vote. But I read this to believe that you were not going to even do that.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
All right.
I would never not vote. Please make it very clear. I represent my constituents, and I know that the health bill needs a no vote, and the sanctuary cities vote needs a no vote, and probably the reason is because of all the power now given to the executive.
Are you okay then with part of this, and I don't want to get too bogged down in the 25th Amendment, and you know this stuff far better than I, but one of the things that it includes is the Vice President of the United States going along, agreeing that he, too, believes the President is incapacitated to do his job, and a majority of the Cabinet. Now, what would you think of a Vice President Pence in this scenario becoming President Pence?
Well, first of all, let me say that you raised the 25th Amendment. I happen to know what it is because I'm a lawyer and I'm on the Judiciary Committee. What I said on the floor, and I maintain that the President resign. And I think it is because he is ill-suited and apparently maybe unhappy in the position, and it's very difficult to be a commander-in-chief.
So you were not among, I just want to be clear then, you were not among these 21 House Democrats, including the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee, to get cracking on a 25th Amendment invocation.
I want to be clear of what I said. I certainly think the 25th Amendment is in play. To answer your question about Vice President Pence, that is the normal course of government, which is if the President resigns or is impeached or is incapacitated, the Vice President of the United States. That is the orderly course of government, and then there is another transition as well for if the Vice President becomes incapacitated.
Right.
I would not in any way override that.
But you're not for that now. You're not getting
Pence.
into this whole 25th Amendment thing. But also, then let me ask you this.
I didn't say I wasn't getting into it. What I raised was a resignation.
All right,
Thank you.
You're confusing me.
That's voluntary.
So, okay,
I'm asking the President to resign.
Do you think it's a bit premature that don't you have to wait for something evidencing a high crime and a proven misdemeanor before we can be even having this discussion?
No, Neil. Remember, impeachment is a separate legal action that falls under the Constitution, and we've been having hearings. I've been holding hearings with John Dean and Professor Tiefer and David Kendall.
Let's say we get a Democratic president on the road and they don't like his or her tone or demeanor, or if they're tweeting or they're saying things that are deemed impolitic, and they have the same push to say, get out of there. I mean, that's a different fire, right?
Believe me, are you trying to suggest that Democratic presidents haven't had the same cry? They have. But I think this president is extraordinary. The series of incidences that make him ill-suited. You've never done this with a prior
president, right? You don't like this one.
First of all, the president spoke about war in Syria, and most of his cabinet members, military, didn't know anything about it. In the Qatar situation, his Secretary of State was saying something completely different from what he was saying.
So you see a lot of smoke, but you want to fire him. You see a lot of smoke, but you want to fire him.
No, I said I want him to resign, and I hope that he does the right thing and resign, because I think it will be better for the American people.
What if he says, I heard Barbara Jordan, and I'm not going to do that?
Let me say this. Then we will continue to proceed as Mr. Grassley is doing in the Senate, have an investigation on the obstruction of justice. I want the House Judiciary Committee to open up an investigation on the obstruction of justice. The special counsel is proceeding, and we'll determine the facts, because we are a democracy and we follow the law. But if he understands this is a position that he's ill-suited for on behalf of the American people, I think he should resign. As I said, Franklin Delano Roosevelt said that any actions of hatred or injustice and other matters make for an attack on our civilization.
Well, you know, that 25th Amendment partly addressed Franklin Roosevelt and his health, and that if he was incapacitated to do his job,
makes for a happy country. And so when
Franklin
the media...
Roosevelt, you mentioned Franklin Roosevelt, that was the 25th Amendment itself came into being to address presidents who were deemed incapacitated on the job, just in case it ever happened again.
As I indicated, I said from the resign The
Okay.
25th Amendment will play out in itself and be determined, but I'm saying to the
But
president...
you're not part of that
with-
25th Amendment crowd. You're not among the 24 Democrats who signed on to that.
Neil, let me say this. Everything in its place.
All right, but
My
you're not one of them, because I
first
thought
point
you
was-
were. You're saying you're not.
My first act was the resignation, and
All right.
other matters will follow appropriately. I didn't say I was or was not. I'm saying that
Okay.
I follow the law. If that's part of the law and the determination comes about legally, then we'll go that route. If there is a proceeding for impeachment, it comes under my committee, we go that route.
All
but
right.
I asked the President of the United States what he feels
All
about
right.
his own
Sheila
job
Jackson Lee.
and whether or not he thinks that he should resign.
All
I think
right.
he should. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Happy 4th of
Congresswoman,
July.
to you as well, ma'am. Representative
Thank
Sheila
you.
Jackson Lee, the beautiful state of Texas.